Hello there, it's Phumlani M. Majozi, I am back. This is the Phumlani. Hello there. Hello there, it's Phumlani M. Majozi, I am back. This is the Phumlani Majozi show where we give you a Black conservative perspective on local and global social economic affairs. Big week in South Africa with gross domestic product numbers are released by Stats South Africa or Statistics South Africa. They released the GDP numbers for the last quarter of last year. This is year 2023. Very disappointing in my perspective, because given the context of the environment and the growth that we need. We grew by 0.1%. This is the last quarter of last year in 2023. And of course, with that, we had avoided a technical recession as we had contracted by 0.2% in the previous or the third quarter of year 2023. When it comes to yearly data, the economy last year grew by 0.6%, 0.6%. Now, that is disappointing, folks. That is very disappointing. And I'll tell you why that is. It's because remember that we need at least 4% economic growth to really start addressing the fundamental socio-economic problems of unemployment, right? So that's where people have said, we need to start. That's the level of growth we need to address our problems. We need a minimum of 4%. Now, some people have said we need 5%. There's one tweet or one reply to one of my tweets or one of my ex posts where a person said we need at least, I think they said at least 7% growth to address the current problems of unemployment. That is the highest in the world. We have the highest unemployment rate in the world. Now, we tend to be some people, anything positive, people celebrate it. The fact that we avoided a technical recession, some people celebrate that. Listen, folks, we cannot be celebrating such things, right? We need to start thinking about the fact that we are really serious underperformers. We underperform global growth. We underperform sub-Saharan growth as well. We underperform emerging markets growth. And I'm talking about economic growth here. I'm not talking about any other form of growth. I am talking about economic growth. We are underperformers. This year, we will underperform sub-Saharan Africa in terms of economic growth. We are really in serious trouble. The minister, the treasury, projects that this is Enoch Godongwana. He projects that this year economic growth will be 1 point, what is it? Let me just check here. 1.3%. That will be the economic growth this year. That's what Godongwana is saying. And he has said that between now and 2026, the average will be 1.6%. And guess what I said? Guess what I said to you? I said we need to have at least 4%, 4, 5%, 6% economic growth to address the fundamental problems that we face in the country. We need to address these problems as soon as possible. Now, we need to be clear here that economic growth is very bad because of bad public policy, because of bad, structural things that we are facing. But let me just mention this as well. Remember, our growth rate is less than population growth, right? In other words, we have a population, an economy that cannot be able to handle population growth. Population growth is greater than economic growth. So that means you will end up in a situation where we are becoming poorer as a nation. In fact, our economy last grew at around 2% at least, more than 10 years ago. I think this was Zuma's first term. That was the time when we last grew. That the GDP per capita has been has gone down, or has been reduced, or has shrank, and that is a serious problem. We are getting poorer as a nation. Now, okay, we've said all of that. We understand what the statistics are, that it's very bad. So where are the issues exactly? Well, we all do know that the issues are with Transnet, terrible logistical problems we've had over the past year that have impacted economic productivity. We all know that it's blackouts problems with ESCOM, power outages. Again, by the way, both of those things, they are in bad shape because of bad public policy, right? We are only starting now to create a robust, competitive energy sector environment. We didn't have that before. We had just one huge company, state-owned, government-owned company supplying power. We had not, opened up the energy market. We didn't free up the energy market, and that was a serious contributor to the problems of load shedding. Of course, we also have the mismanagement, corruption at the state-owned companies, of course, including ESCOM, Transnet again, mismanagement problems, and the fact that there wasn't really that huge sort of private sector involvement in the in Transnet operations. You need the private sector, folks. You need the private sector to be involved in these things. To have one dominant government being the supplier of a service or good, that we must avoid such an environment. We must avoid such an environment. So those are the two things I've just talked to you about. I've just spoken to you about. I have mentioned ESCOM. I have mentioned Transnet, but there are other also wider reforms that are suppressing the economy. The economy is not growing fast because of these very serious problems we face. The first one would be issues of regulations. I'm talking about things like the minimum wage laws, right? That are impacting employment. Remember, if you have almost half of your workforce unemployed, how are you going to create a stronger GDP? You need people to be productive, to be part of the economy, to wake up in the morning and go to work. That's what you need to have a productive economy. If you have almost half of your workforce jobless, unemployed, that is a very big problem. We are not going to have a productive economy then. We are not going to produce, expand the GDP cake or the GDP size. We are not going to do that because half of your workforce is jobless. That's a huge contributor. So we need to look at the labor laws, labor regulations, labor market regulations. That's very important, folks. That's very, very important. So things like minimum wages, they must be scrapped. You can never have minimum wages in a country that has the highest unemployment rate in the world. How do you do that? It doesn't make sense. I said this the other day in one of my episodes in this show. It does not make any sense. Now, so I've just told you minimum wage laws that are negatively affecting the labor market or employment patterns. And then, of course, we have more other types of regulations. Folks, just look at how companies have been delisting on the JSE or in recent years. That has been a problem. And guess what? What's being highlighted is one of the reasons that companies are delisting from JSE is the regulatory environment, the requirements that has been heavy for companies. And as a result, they're saying, you know what, let's rather delist. Now, of course, JSE is a nice place to raise capital. Now companies are delisting to search elsewhere. Out there aren't much better options, or no, they choose to say, you know what, let me just, because of the cost and how expensive the amount of time, the amount of regulations they have to comply with. They are giving up on the JSE, and that's not good for our environment. Now, can't that be reversed? Of course, it can be reversed. You can relax the regulations. Can be done. You know, in one of the books here, um, A Rich State, Poor State by Greg Mills. In that book, I think I've cited this book in two or three of my columns recently. Greg argues in this book, it's his brand new book, very good book. It's got magnificent data. It's a very nice read. Let me check it here. Where is this book? Rich State Poor State. Find it here. There. There's the book I'm talking about. This is the book I'm talking about. Now, in this book, Greg Mills says that it all comes down to policy choices, right? That is what that is what that's what makes nations either poor or wealthy, or become wealthy, right? It comes down to policy choices. We have been making bad policy choices. Can we do better? Yes, of course we can. We can do better. We can do good policy, right? And much of what we do in this show, what I do in this show, is to remind, South Africans that we can do better. And it's what I do in this book of mine, Lessons from Past Heroes, that we can get policy right. So I've spoken about the regulatory environment, very bad, even the labor laws, totally crazy, many of them. And they are not encouraging a robust labor market environment. Labor costs issues that have been raised, even when you compare labor costs, you compare South Africa's to other emerging markets, we are way up there. So these are the things that we don't have a competitive country. We don't have a competitive environment. And that is letting us down in terms of economic productivity. Okay, so now another thing, of course, I want to talk about is around taxes. Taxes are very high in this country. High taxes are not a good thing in the economy. They discourage economic growth, right? So you should collect less and less taxes so that people keep the money in their pocket, so that you encourage private sector investment. People, they use the money as they see wise and efficiently in the economy. You don't have the very high tax rates. If you do have that, you are going to have a serious problem. Now, our tax rates tend to be very high in South Africa, in contrast to various countries in Sub-Saharan, from Mauritius and many others as well. Even in Sub-Saharan Africa, our tax rates, they tend to be higher. Now, tax rates, and that's not positive, right? We have really the tax burden in the country. It's huge, right? So these are all the issues we have to address if we are serious about addressing the the problems of unemployment, to have stronger growth. So we do not grow at 0.6%, which is what we got last year. These are the issues we have to address. Now, the World Bank says crime in South Africa, negatively impacts our GDP, and that about 10% of our GDP is lost due to crime, right? And that's a very big problem. Now, crime can be reduced. I have argued that it can be reduced in a space of 1-2 years, right? So in less than 3 years, you can reduce crime in this country drastically. It can be done. Over the past weeks, I have been praising President Nayib Bukele of El Salvador, who came in, to rule a country that was, ran by gangs. He took them on, right? Didn't say, well, the gangs are doing this because of, they are victims of unemployment. They are victims of, an economy that is not growing fast. All these kinds of excuses that are not helpful. Bukele didn't do that. He came in and said, I'm going to take these guys head on. I'm going to fight them, and I'm going to use lethal means if necessary when I'm fighting them. If necessary, I'm going to do that. So he's being a fearless man. And guess what? El Salvador. Now I'm repeating myself because I'm saying the thing I've said in my previous videos. Guess what? People of El Salvador, they feel safer now. They're safer. The murder rate, all various types of crimes have declined drastically in El Salvador. Credit to Nayib Bukele, right? The president of the country. We can't do that here if we didn't have a weak president who is indecisive, who is incompetent, him and his ministers. We could do it in this country. That can be done in a space of 2 years. You would have a safe country if the goal and if the initiative was taken to get the country out of crime, or to reduce crime, or to eradicate crime. If we made that decision, we could get the best results. I have said that most of what you see in the country, it's things that we have chosen. We have chosen to make our country the mess that it is, right? To have places that are hotbeds of crime, We have chosen that we should have such places. Of that can be reversed, can be done, with a strategy, and tactics, and stamina, right, and fearlessness to take criminals head on. Now, we are talking about the economy here. I'm saying that the economy is being impacted by crime, negatively impacted by crime, and that is affecting us. It's affecting our economic productivity in the country. So what I have laid out to you, these are things that, and there are other things as well. But what I'm just trying to remind you is that we need to get these basics right if we want to create a strong economy that does not grow at 0.6%, right? So it can be done. We can do these things if we can reverse all these, bad policies that we have been doing. Now, I don't expect that to be done by the ANC. They got us into this trouble. I don't expect them to be the fixer of this country anymore. I do not. I don't at all. I believe we should have new people coming in who have a different perspective, and certainly it should not be people who are very much on the left, because it's exactly the leftist mentality that has hurt the country, that has damaged the country. So we can't have EFF coming into power. That will sink us straight. Yeah, we are becoming Venezuela. We will be destitute in a year, and we don't want that, right? Rather, you want parties that are pro-market, parties that will ensure that they create a thriving private sector. That is critical. Address the issues of education. Because, one of the problems we face, if we had a sophisticated, highly skilled workforce, probably would be doing much better when it comes to the economic growth. We wouldn't be getting these numbers that we got today from Stats South Africa. We wouldn't be getting them, probably. Because why? We are very much highly skilled people who are not seeking to be employed, but who want to create jobs in industries that are globally competitive, in industries where you have people demanding products there globally. In other words, they could be producing the stuff that is demanded worldwide, right? Because they do have the skills and the knowledge to produce those products. So I mean, all these things, they can be reversed. We can get a better productive economy if we make the right policy decisions. And Greg Mills, in this very fascinating book, that's got very fascinating data. He makes it clear that it comes down to choices. It comes down to policy choices. We can make the right choices in the country. Thank you all. It's been great to be with you again. A reminder, as I said earlier this week, Gabriel McKean is off this week, so I am sailing alone. So thanks for watching this show. Remember, I am on my website, phumlanimajosi.com. I'm also on X. Yes, I am on X there, and I see many people always attacking me, calling me names. And to those people, listen, we're not giving up. We are continuing with the push for a freer society, right? For a society that advocates for personal responsibility. So yes, I am on X, at Phumlani Majosi. So that's my X handle, and I'm also on LinkedIn as well. If we're a professional, it's Phumlani Majosi. You can just connect with me on LinkedIn. I do have a Facebook page as well. It's Phumlani Majosi. And for the first time today, I'm going to tell you that I do have Instagram as well. So I am on Instagram. It's at Phumlani Majosi. Thank you all. I hope you will join me again next time.